At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today and let us surprise you.
Look at him, eating whatever he wants, never gaining a pound. While I'm stuck with the boring special and can't lose an ounce.
How's your lunch, man?
Amazing. Yours?
So good.
Oh, I'm so happy for you.
Cool, buddy.
Weight loss isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. The affordable GLP-1 source that can fix your frustration with food.
So, same time next week?
No!
Definitely.
And your friends. Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
Voices for Justice is a podcast that uses adult language and discusses sensitive and potentially triggering topics, including violence, abuse, and murder. This podcast may not be appropriate for younger audiences. All parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Some names have been changed or omitted per their request or for safety purposes. Listener discretion is advised.
My name is Sarah Turney, and this is Voices for Justice. Today, I'm discussing the murders of 13-year-old Amy Ayers, 17-year-old Eliza Thomas, and sisters 15-year-old Sarah Harbison and 17-year-old Jennifer Harbison, whose collective murders are most often referred to as the yogurt shop murders.
We are interrupting our regular newscast with some important breaking news that so many may have waited decades to hear. Authorities are telling us that it's a resolution to one of the defining events in Austin's history.
Yeah, KVUE News has confirmed investigators with the Austin Police Department believe they have solved the infamous yogurt shop murders after nearly 34 years.
Finally, an answer to this question that has haunted Austin for decades. Who killed these girls?
This is the case of the yogurt shop murders. In Austin, Texas in 1991, the city was on the verge of becoming the place we know today, a tech hub, a cultural destination. But back then, it was still a big town that felt small, a place that believed itself safe from the kind of darkness that haunted bigger cities. At the Hillside strip mall on West Anderson Lane, there was a shop called I Can't Believe It's Yogurt. It was really a symbol of that everyday American life. A place for after-school treats, first dates, and first jobs. A place of simple, ordinary innocence. But on the cold night of December 6, 1991, this symbol of innocence became the scene of an unspeakable crime, an act of such brutal violence that it would steal 4 young lives and leave a wound on the soul of the city that would fester for nearly 34 years. Amy, Eliza, Jennifer, and Sarah would become permanently etched into the city's memory. Their story became a decades-long quest, not just for a killer, but for the truth. It was a quest marred by false starts, thousands of dead-end leads, wrongful convictions that sent innocent men to prison, and ultimately, a scientific breakthrough that no one, not the investigators, not the families, not the city of Austin, ever saw coming. What happened inside the yogurt shop on that cold December night? And how did one of the most infamous cold cases in Texas history finally find its answer? In this episode, I'll provide a basic overview of the crimes and delve deeper into how they were solved. If you are brand new to this case and want to learn more about the crimes themselves, you can listen to my 3-part coverage on this case that was published a few years back. I'll have the links in this episode's description. Now, before we descend into the darkness of that December night, it's essential to understand the light that was extinguished. To truly understand the magnitude of the loss that Austin suffered, we must first know the vibrant, promising lives that were taken. These weren't just names on a case file. They were daughters, sisters, and friends, each with a future full of possibility. Jennifer Harbison, age 17, and Sarah Harbison, age 15, were inseparable sisters. Their lives intertwined through family and shared passions. Both were active and dedicated members to the Future Farmers of America, or FFA, and together they were raising sheep for an upcoming livestock show. Jennifer, a popular and outgoing senior at Lanier High School, was a tiny girl, standing at just 5 feet tall and weighing only 86 pounds. But she was a force of nature. She was a relay runner on the varsity track team, and a leader, serving as the district vice president of the FFA and president of her school's chapter. Her younger sister Sarah was a sophomore who played both volleyball and basketball. Just 3 weeks before her murder, her new boyfriend had given her his senior ring, a powerful symbol of young love that she wore proudly on the night she died. Eliza Thomas, age 17, was one of the employees working at the yogurt shop that night. An FFA member alongside the Harbison sisters, she and Jennifer had both just been nominated for FFA Queen, a testament to their shared standing in the community. But Eliza's passions were wide-ranging. She was an avid reader with a natural talent for language, and many believe she was destined to be a writer. She was also mechanically inclined, pouring her earnings from the yogurt shop into her beloved 1971 Volkswagen Carmen Ghia. She worked on the car herself, a classic she'd chosen because its bright green color matched her emerald birthstone. She was bright, determined, and independent. Amy Ayers, at just age 13, was the youngest of the 4 victims. Described as a quiet, religious country girl, she had a profound love for horses and animals, and dreamed of one day becoming a veterinarian. She'd been riding since she was 3 years old, and was so comfortable on her family's ranch that she was known to put leashes on pigs and take them for walks. It was her close friendship with Sarah Harbison that brought her to the yogurt shop that night, a bond forged in the shared camaraderie of the FFA. Their lives were filled with the simple joys and complex dreams of youth, vibrant and full of promise, until a senseless act of violence cut them tragically short. On the night of Friday, December 6, 1991, the girls were closing up the I Can't Believe It's yogurt shop. It was a routine they knew well. But shortly before midnight, a patrol officer on duty spotted smoke and fire coming from the strip mall. He called it in, and the Austin Fire Department was dispatched to the scene. What the firefighters discovered inside was a scene of unimaginable horror. As Detective Daniel Jackson would later recount, the 4 girls were found in the back of the shop. They were nude, bound, and gagged with their own clothing used as ligatures. Each of them had been shot execution-style in the head. An autopsy would reveal that the youngest, 13-year-old Amy Ayers, had been shot twice, with 2 different caliber pistols, a .22 and a .380. The perpetrator had then set the building on fire before fleeing. The immediate challenges for investigators were immense. The intense heat of the fire, followed by the high-pressure water used to extinguish it, had decimated the crime scene. As Detective Jackson explained, this, quote, basically destroyed pretty much anything else that you were going to try to collect, end quote. Most of the physical evidence was lost forever. In the immediate aftermath, the only key piece recovered was a single spent .380 shell casing, found preserved by chance in a floor drain. This single shell casing, and really the fragmented memories of the last customers, were all investigators had to go on. It was the beginning of a massive and frustrating investigation, one that was about to go down a tragically wrong path almost immediately. In the aftermath of a crime that had, in the words of Austin's mayor, stolen the city's innocence, the pressure to find a killer was crushing. This immense public pressure, combined with a near-total lack of physical evidence, created the perfect storm for a flawed investigation. In the absence of forensic proof, detectives were forced to rely on tips, and most perilously, on confessions. The Austin Police Department was inundated with thousands of tips and dozens of false confessions from people all over the country. This created a chaotic environment, a fog of misinformation that made it difficult to discern any real leads. Then, just 8 days after the murders, police got what they thought was their first major break. A 16-year-old named Maurice Pierce, who was with his friend Forrest Welburn at the time, was arrested at the nearby North Cross Mall for carrying a .22 caliber pistol. After several hours of interrogation, Pierce confessed. In his statement, he implicated 3 of his friends: Forrest Welburn, Robert Springsteen, and Michael Scott. At the time, police interviewed all 4 teenagers. However, ballistic tests on Pierce's pistol came back inconclusive. With no other evidence to hold them, all 4 were eliminated as suspects and released. The lead went cold. For years, the case stalled, and the families were left without answers. But investigators would eventually revisit this initial flawed lead, a decision that would lead to one of the darkest chapters in the history of Austin's justice system. This episode of Voices for Justice is brought to you by Quince. I've been trying to be more intentional about what I wear each day. I'm leaning into pieces that feel effortless, comfortable, and still put together, and Quince has been my go-to. The fabrics feel elevated, the fits are flattering, and everything just works without overthinking it. They use premium materials like 100% European linen, organic cotton, and ultra-soft denim. And the best part? Everything is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality and craftsmanship, not brand markup. I recently just ordered their tiered linen dress, of course in black. I wanted to pair it with one of my favorite pairs of brown wedges. The problem was, I didn't have a brown purse. So I got that from Quince too. It's one of my favorite outfits. It's easy, effortless, and feels amazing, especially as we're getting a little bit warmer here in Phoenix. Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/justice for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/justice for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/justice. This episode of Voices for Justice is sponsored by Chewy. If you have pets, you probably know about Chewy, and you also know that when they say that they have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy, they're not messing around. To keep them happy, Chewy has over 100,000 products from all the brands my pets love at prices I love. To keep them healthy, Chewy offers pet prescriptions, pet insurance, telehealth vet visits, and they're even rolling out vet clinics across the country. I've been shopping with them for a very long time. And in addition to the auto-ship feature that gets the dog's food to them every single month, I also love to experiment with different treats. But I'm a bit picky. For me, it has to be high quality with simple ingredients. I recently picked up treats from Shepherd Boy Farms that are 100% just chicken breast. Popcorn and Heber are already obsessed. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney. That's chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney to save $20 on your first order with free shipping. chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney. Minimum purchase required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details. There are few things more corrosive to the idea of justice than a wrongful conviction. In 1999, nearly 8 years after the murders, the desperate search for an answer took a dark turn. The investigation circled back to the 4 young men who had been cleared years earlier. And this time, it would rely almost exclusively on confessions that were obtained under extreme pressure, confessions that would later be recanted. In 1999, a new task force reinterrogated Maurice Pierce, Forrest Welburn, Robert Springsteen, and Michael Scott. After lengthy and intense interrogations, both Springsteen and Scott delivered confessions implicating each other in the crime. Springsteen confessed after 5 hours. Scott confessed after an 18-hour interrogation, which was part of a questioning period that spanned 4 days. Based on these statements, all 4 were arrested for capital murder. Their fates diverged from there. A grand jury no-billed Forrest Welburn, and charges against Maurice Pierce were eventually dropped. But Robert Springsteen and Michael Scott were tried, convicted, and sent to prison. Scott received a sentence of life without parole. Springsteen was sentenced to death. Crucially, as District Attorney Jose Garza would later state, there was never any physical evidence linking any of the 4 men to the yogurt shop. Their convictions rested entirely on the confessions. As Garza himself declared, quote, "The overwhelming weight of the evidence points to the innocence of Maurice Pierce, Michael Scott, Robert Springsteen IV, and Forrest Welburn," end quote. But before that truth could be acknowledged, 2 men would spend nearly a decade in prison for a crime they did not commit, waiting for a legal and scientific turning point to set them free. Now, the first domino to fall was a legal one. The landmark 2004 Supreme Court case Crawford v. Washington fundamentally changed the rules of evidence, barring the use of one defendant's taped or written confession against another in court. And since the convictions of Springsteen and Scott relied heavily on using their separate, recanted confessions against one another, both men were granted new trials. It was in preparation for these retrials that science delivered the final, decisive blow to the prosecution's case. Investigators decided to re-examine the sexual assault kits from the 1991 crime scene using a new technology called YSTR testing. This more advanced test specifically looks for the genetic information on the male chromosome, making it a powerful tool for identifying male DNA in a sample. And the results were stunning. The test developed a clear profile of an unknown male whose DNA was present at the crime scene. And when this profile was compared against the DNA of the 4 men who'd been arrested, all 4 were explicitly excluded. In 2009, with the scientific evidence irrefutably pointing away from them, all charges against Michael Scott and Robert Springsteen were dropped pending further investigation. After nearly a decade behind bars, they were finally free. Years later, reflecting this entire ordeal, Michael Scott said, quote, "This case stole decades of my life, but the truth has finally come to light," end quote. 4 men were now free, but the case was colder than ever. The city of Austin and the victims' families were left with one haunting question. If it wasn't them, who was the unknown man whose DNA was found all over the crime scene? While Austin investigators spent years chasing false leads and prosecuting the wrong men, a prolific and violent predator was cutting a path of terror across the country. He was a man whose name had never once surfaced in the yogurt shop investigation. Really a ghost in the system, whose horrific crimes would only be connected decades after his own death. His name was Robert Eugene Brashers. His known history of violence was extensive. In 1985, he was arrested in Florida for shooting a woman named Michelle Wilkerson after she rejected his sexual advances. Luckily, she lived. He was then sentenced to 12 years in prison, but served only 4 and was released on parole in May 1989. It was only after his death that his DNA would link him to a string of more brutal crimes. The 1990 sexual assault and murder of a woman in Greenville, South Carolina, named Genevieve Zetricki, the 1997 rape of a 14-year-old girl in Tennessee, and the 1998 shooting of a mother and her 12-year-old daughter in Missouri, Sherry and Megan Scherer. As Detective Jackson noted, between 2006 and 2017, they knew they had a serial killer in these different jurisdictions. They just didn't know who he was. The DNA had clearly linked the crimes, but the killer remained unknown. It wasn't until 2018, through the power of genetic genealogy, that the investigators in those states were finally able to identify him. After tracing his family tree, they received a judge's order to have his body exhumed from a cemetery in Arkansas, confirming his identity. The final chapter of Robert Brasher's life was written in 1999. During an hours-long standoff with police at a motel in Missouri, he died by suicide. In a moment of staggering, dramatic irony, the real killer of the 4 girls in Austin was dead before the Yogurt Shop 4 were even put on trial. As investigators from multiple states began to piece together Brasher's violent history, a clear and chilling MO emerged. Once they really began putting all of this together, the patterns of his crimes painted this portrait of a meticulous and ruthless predator. He was known to carry multiple weapons. He was also known to tie up his victims, often using their own clothing as bindings. He was known to sexually assault young female victims when given the opportunity. He often shot his victims in the head, and he was never known to have an accomplice. During a 1997 home invasion in Memphis, he was able to control 4 women entirely on his own. Of course, this established MO mirrored the horrific details of the Austin yogurt shop crimes. The use of 2 different caliber pistols, the victims bound with their own clothing, the sexual assault, the execution-style gunshots, and the fact that a lone actor overpowered 4 victims. These were connections that investigators wouldn't make for nearly 34 years.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why customers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
What they did to your family, you're lucky to make it out alive.
Streaming on Peacock.
These men are going to come after me. Taking them out is my only chance.
Put a bullet in her head.
From the co-creator of Ozark.
Looks like a family was running drugs.
Execution-style killing, it's rare for the Keys. Any leads on who they might have been running for?
The cartel killed my family. I'm gonna kill them. All of them.
MIA. Streaming now. Only on Peacock.
The pinnacle of this 34-year saga began in 2022, when Austin Police cold case detective Daniel Jackson inherited the case. His fresh perspective, combined with the incredible advances in forensic technology that were not available to his predecessors, would finally provide the key to unlock one of America's most stubborn cold cases. So how did it happen? Well, the first crucial step came in June 2025. Detective Jackson decided to re-examine the single piece of evidence that had survived the fire, that .380 shell casing recovered from the floor drain. He resubmitted it to the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, or NIBIN. Although the casing had been entered before, years had passed, and the software powering the system was now vastly more powerful and sophisticated, using 3D imaging to compare the markings. And on the morning of July 2nd, 2025, the system returned a hit. The NIBIN database linked the shell casing from the Austin yogurt shop to a weapon used in an unsolved 1998 murder in Kentucky. That crime shared a disturbingly similar MO, including the fact that the store had been set on fire to destroy evidence. For the first time in years, investigators had a tangible lead. With the Kentucky connection established, Detective Jackson took another innovative step. He knew that the unknown male YSTR DNA profile was the key to this case, so he initiated a nationwide manual search, reaching out to every crime lab in the country that conducted YSTR testing and asking them to search their local databases against the profile from Austin. I want to reiterate that this was not an automated process. It required an analyst at each lab to run the comparison by hand, and only one lab in the entire country responded with a potential match, the South Carolina State Lab. What followed was an agonizing 2-week wait as the lab's legal department reviewed the request, and forensic analysts worked to confirm the findings. They knew they had someone, but they didn't have a name. Finally, on August 22nd, the confirmation came. The South Carolina lab had a perfect match from a sexual assault and murder case they'd solved in 1990 out of Greenville. The YSTR profile was a perfect 27 for 27 marker match to the unknown profile from the yogurt shop. The name of their suspect was Robert Eugene Brashers. When Detective Jackson got on the phone with the Greenville detective, the first question he was asked sent a chill down his spine. Quote, "Your victims, were they bound with their own clothing?" End quote. With Robert Brashers now identified as the prime suspect, there was one final, irrefutable piece of evidence that would cement the case. And in my opinion, one of the most heartbreaking. Using the newest, most sensitive technology available, investigators retested one last item from the 1991 autopsy of 13-year-old Amy Ayers, her fingernail clippings. The result was stunning and definitive. Underneath Amy's fingernails, they found Brasher's DNA. And the statistical probability was staggering. It was 2.5 million to 1 that the DNA belonged to Brasher's versus an unknown individual. In her final moments, Amy had fought back against her attacker, scratching him and collecting the very evidence that would identify him 34 years later. As Detective Jackson very powerfully stated, quote, "I'm sorry that it took 34 years for us to get here. But we're here now, and you know, Amy's final moments on this earth were to solve this case for us. It's because of her fighting back." End quote. Amy Ayers is truly a hero. Investigators then connected this to Brasher's movements. Less than 48 hours after the murders, he was stopped at a border checkpoint near El Paso, Texas, driving a stolen truck. In his possession was an AMT 380 pistol, the same make and model identified by ballistics as the weapon used to kill Amy. Decades later, investigators confirmed it was the very same gun Brasher's used to die by suicide in the Missouri standoff in 1999. The serial number was a perfect match, A75213. The case was solved. All that remained was to tell the world, and most importantly, to tell the families who'd waited over 3 decades for this day. The press conference on September 29, 2025 was a moment of profound public and private catharsis. For the city of Austin, it was the closing of a painful 34-year-old wound. For the families of the 4 girls, it was the end of a lifetime of not knowing. One by one, they stepped to the podium, their voices filled with a complex mix of grief, relief, and gratitude. First was Barbara Wilson, the mother of Jennifer and Sarah Harbison.
I'm really excited about being here. It's been a crazy couple of days, and I just really came here to say I'm full of gratitude. It has been so long, and all we ever wanted for this case was the truth. We never wanted anyone to go to jail or be charged with anything that they did not do. Vengeance was never it. It was always the truth. And I'm here to really talk about the police department and how involved and supportive they have been from the very beginning. We have Mike Huckabee, and please keep him in your prayers. His health is bad. So, and him and John Jones, they were the first people that we fell in love with on the force because they told us about what had happened. And starting with those guys 34 years ago, they were been in our lives and our families all of this time. And every officer that I see in Austin that has been there for us and loved us and what they have done, people don't understand how hard they work. Everybody is concerned for the solving of the case. Everybody was concerned about all of us here because they know the tragedy was so painful and continues to be. But I really just came to say thank you for the Austin Police Department and all the love and support that you have given us over these 34 years. And I thank you for that.
Next was Sonora Thomas, the sister of Eliza Thomas.
10 years ago, my mom died. I went to the cemetery on Hancock to fill out the paperwork. And the clerk behind the desk, when she looked up the location of my mom's plot, paused. And then she said, "I've lived in Austin for so long. Please know that your family has always been in my prayers." I hadn't lived in Austin for 20 years at that point, but it was such a comfort to hear this woman's words without even saying anything to her about who I was. The outpouring of love from strangers because of these tragic circumstances has taught me about the nature of humanity. Living through something like this, you would think that I'd feel worse about humanity, but instead I feel better. When I think about those early days, I think about Nell Myers, Bernally Carr, from People Against Violent Crimes, coming to our house, taking us out to lunch. They even took me, a 13-year-old girl, clothes shopping. Dawn and Susan Cox, from the Christie Center, let my mom sleep on the couch when she was too scared to go home. Then there was the memorial company that donated the headstone, and the Lanier student who played taps at the funeral, and John Jones, who was there from the very beginning, who still answers my phone calls. The million kindnesses that have been extended to me and my family have gotten us to this moment. Some of us. I think of my mom today, and I wish she were here. Our reality doesn't change after today. Our families are still too small, still missing an essential ingredient, and we are lesser for it. We have been robbed of a life with nieces and nephews and grandchildren, and with sisters to grow old with. This sort of mindless violence continues to steal from all of us. I don't yet know how this information is going to change my life, but what I learned about myself in the past 2 days is that my brain was split in two. One part of my brain has been screaming, "What happened to my sister?" And the other part kept repeating, "I will never know. I will die not knowing, and I have to be okay with that." On Saturday, those two parts of my brain started melting into each other. I realized how much energy I had used to keep them separate and to convince myself that I was okay not knowing. A few weeks ago, a reporter asked me, "Do you think this will ever be solved?" And I didn't skip a beat. I said, "I can't think about that. I will lose my mind if I think about that. I have to focus on my work, helping my clients and my groups as a therapist. But now I can have both. I know now what happened, and that does ease my suffering. And I can continue to pass on all the kindnesses that have been shown to me over the decades and hope that I can ease the suffering of others." Thank you so much.
Last, but certainly not least, was Sean and Angie Ayers, the brother and sister-in-law of Amy Ayers.
Thank you for letting us have the chance today to speak. We greatly appreciate it. My name's Sean Ayers. I'm the son of Robert and Pam Ayers, Amy's big brother. I'd like to first thank God for giving us all the strength and perseverance for the last 34 years to finally have a little end to it. At one point, I had given up on God, but He never gave up on me, and I am thankful for that. Thank you for the persons that leaked information to the media. Thank you for the bombardment texts and calls we got minutes after we found out from a face-to-face meeting with APD. Thanks for being responsible for some of the parents being called by media before they got the chance to have their face-to-face with APD. Thank you for forcing this press conference to be moved up, so we all had to rush to put our thoughts and words into a moment we've been waiting 34 years for. You should know better. This has to stop. Since I had to write this down last night on the drive down here, I apologize now if I leave anybody out. Detective Dan Jackson. To us, he's just Dan. One of the few detectives I've met during this journey that has no ego. A man that looks you in the eye with good or bad news. A man that does what he says with no excuses. A man that treated the girls, the families, and this case with respect. A man that turned down multiple promotions to stay in the cold case unit and on this case. Please take some promotions now. You deserve it. He did his job, not for credit for himself. He did it for the answers, the justice, and a little peace for the people this case has touched. And boy, did he get it done. Thank you, Dan. Mindy Mumford. Mindy has been there since the beginning. And yes, she told us face to face that she would never stop fighting and never stop helping us. Not surprising, she kept her word. We have laughed and cried together, but she never backed away from the fight and always gave us hope, not with her words, but with her actions. I hope that you have an idea of what you mean to us, me and my family. The world needs more Mindy Mumfords. Thank you, Mindy. Dan and Mindy thought outside the box, made some tough decisions, but they couldn't have done it alone. We still don't know everyone that has been involved this latest update. Thank you to every law enforcement officer from multiple local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies. Thank you to all the labs and their employees. Thank you to all the experts that had a hand in this. The result you see today is when you have an army of people working together to reach a common goal, not for themselves, but for the victims and their families. Thank you to all of you. And the last one, the spark that lit the fuse, the love of my life, the mother of my children, and a badass of a human being, Angie Ayers. She is the reason I'm standing here at this press conference today. She's the reason this case is not in a box somewhere at APD. I asked for her help, not knowing what I was about to witness. With no experience, no idea where to start, what to do, she went to work. She started making phone calls to everyone that would listen, and the ones that didn't listen, she made them. She was a thorn in the side of many detectives, but she eventually gained the respect of all of them. She didn't take no for an answer. She never gave up when it was extremely hard, and she always said she didn't want to let us down. You never let us down. She's not a detective of any kind or legal counsel, but at this point, she could be a damn good one. I'm proud to be called her husband. I can say I never can repay her for what she has done. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying. I love you, and thank you. To everyone that's ever sent an encouraging word by card, text, email, or face-to-face, thank you. It means a lot. This day, I was never sure what was going to get here. This chapter will close soon, but we're just getting started. You will see.
Thank y'all for allowing me the time to speak today. There's been a great amount of emotion over the past few days that no one can explain unless you've experienced it. And to those that leaked it before all the family members were notified, shame on you. This has never been a story to us, these families. It's always been our lives, and we were forced to share it with the world. And the one day that we were trying to cope with it and take a breath, you took that from us. I hope that you never have to endure the pain that caused. With that said, I've already been introduced, so I'm sorry. I'm Angie Ayers, wife of Amy, who's brother to Sean. I'm sorry, wife of Sean, brother to Amy. My journey started 2 days after this murder. I was actually friends with one of the Harbison's cousins. I did not know from that day forward I would be connected with this case for the rest of my life. When Sean asked me to fight for justice, I said, "How far do you want me to push?" And he said, "As far as you can." That lit a fire in me that I had never experienced in my life. I have been here longer than most investigators involved. I've been here longer than the district attorneys, the prosecutors, and chief of police. I have been told no, to stand down, told to wait, be careful. Be careful for what you ask for, and I'll let you know when it's deemed appropriate. But I've also got yeses. And those yeses helped start a cold case unit at the Attorney General's office. It also has helped make a federal bill for the families and victims. And I say this to all the other family victims out there. Keep going. You will get knocked down, but get back up with a vengeance. Do not take no when your gut is telling you to push. Do not give up. Fight for what is right, and most importantly, don't let them put your case back in a box. To the Austin community, the APD Cold Case Unit, and the hundreds of friends and families here, online, and watching, thank you for not forgetting the girls. Your cards and your messages have never gone unread, and they are a comfort to have. To all the people that have reached out, to those that have stood by us to give us advice and a shoulder to lean on when we needed it, thank you. To the families of the cold case throughout the country, I hope you can find the right people who are willing to put their heart and soul in your case and willing to fight for you and with you. I hope that you can build a team of law enforcement, geneticists, genealogists, private investigators, forensic experts, DNA experts, whoever and whatever. Whatever it takes to find the proof that you need in order to solve your case, as we did for the girls. There have been so many detectives that have come and gone over the years, but I guess now, Danny will be our favorite. He came in eager to work for the girls and work with the team. He was warned against how intense and passionate I was in order to help this case. He never wavered. He was willing to put all of his ego aside and do what was right for the girls. He followed the evidence and undoubtedly invested his heart and soul into fighting for justice. He and his team worked diligently to find the hidden puzzle pieces that we needed. Dan, what you have done for Sarah, Jennifer, Eliza, and Amy, there is absolutely no way that we can find the words. There is not a proper way to show our gratitude. All I can say right now is thank you. The other person in this room, I'm going to make this. She has been by our side the majority of the time. She has set the bar for cold case units and missing persons units in Texas, and together we will be forming a foundation to further advance law enforcement agencies and cold cases around the country. Mindy Montford, thank you. From our first meeting, she said she would never give up and would fight with us and would be there until she could deliver the news that the girls and the families deserved, and she did it. She has withstood the ups and the downs, the twists and turns, and the exhausted amount of text, emails, phone calls that I have sent throughout the years. Thank you for being a woman of your word. There is nothing that we can do to repay you for what you and all of the team has done for us. This has given so much hope to other families across the country. I hope that you hear me. To law enforcement far and near, please hear this. Open the cold case boxes, please. Put the evidence in the databases. Run the rape kits. Do not wait. Do it today. You could help ease someone's pain today. With the technology, we should be solving more cases. Let's quit letting murderers and habitual criminals out of prison. The justice system has failed the girls numerous times over the decades. This system has got to change. We have got to do better, for the victims. To the families of the girls, to my in-laws, thank you for trusting me with this task. I'm sorry that it took so long. I hope that this helps heal part of your broken heart. The pain that you have endured over the decades can never be healed, but I hope you can stop asking who did this to your girls. To my son, to my daughter, I'm sorry that you were thrown into this. I'm sorry for all the intense moments, all the meetings and frustrations you have witnessed and had to be a part of. But I hope that you can see that your aunt and her friends were loved, and it was all worth it. To my husband, I'm sorry. I have seen you suffer in more ways than people will ever know. You've always been the strong and silent one, but sometimes in the silence, it's the one who's suffering the most. I'm glad I was able to keep my word. I was able to help you and our family find justice. I was never going to give up. And lastly, to my sister-in-law, Amy Ayers, I'm so honored to have fought next to you. But you can rest easy now, sister. I've got it from here. I will continue your fight to help other victims. Thank you.
This announcement also brought a long overdue reckoning for the men who were wrongfully accused. District Attorney Jose Garza offered a direct apology. Quote, "If the conclusions of APD's investigations are confirmed, as it appears that they will be, I will say I am sorry, though I know that will never be enough." End quote. He pledged that his office would support restitution efforts and that their attorneys were seeking formal exoneration for the men. In a poignant and symbolic moment, the original lead investigator, John Jones, attended the press conference. He'd made a promise to the families back in 1991 that they would only see him in the, quote, hideous green and white shirt he wore on the night of the murders again when the case was finally solved. On September 29th, 2025, for the first time in 34 years, he wore that shirt again. Today, the investigation officially remains open as police seek more information about Robert Brasher's life and travels. They believe he may be responsible for other unsolved killings across the country. The final page has been turned, but the full story of his violence may not yet be complete. The journey from that horrific night in 1991 to the public announcement in 2025 is a saga of profound loss, a story that exposes the fallibility of our justice system, and a testament to the relentless love of family. But most of all, it's a powerful demonstration of the undeniable ability of science to uncover truth, even when it's been buried for decades under layers of sorrow, confusion, and mistakes. In the end, it was Amy Ayers' final, desperate act of defiance that held the key. Her fight for her life left behind microscopic evidence that would 34 years later name her killer and bring a measure of peace to the families and the city that never forgot her. Which brings me right to our call to action. Like I said, the search for justice continues. Authorities believe that there may be more victims of Robert Eugene Brashers, and they're asking for the public's help. If you have any information about Brashers, his travels, or his activities prior to his death in 1999, you are urged to come forward. If you have that information, you can contact the Texas Attorney General's Cold Case and Missing Persons Unit tip line, the Austin Police Department at yogurtshop@austintexas.gov, or the Capital Area Crime Stoppers Program. The long shadow of this case has finally begun to recede, but for other families in other cities, the fight for answers goes on. As always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time. Voices for Justice is hosted and produced by me, Sarah Turney, and is a Voices for Justice media original. If you love what we do here, please don't forget to follow, rate, and review the show in your podcast player. It's an easy and free way to help us and help more people find these cases in need of justice. Welcome to the Secret After Show. The studio door is open, and our emotional support puppies, Popcorn and Heber, are in the room. Oh, after creating, this is now my 5th episode, if you count the small update I put out immediately after, the 5th episode I have created about this case. And really, I guess after spending so much time with it, combined with the fact that they are still seeking information, it just felt like such an important update to bring to you guys. There were also a lot of questions about that initial press release, if you will, that initial announcement that this had been solved, and I hope and think this episode really cleared all that up. And again, there is still justice to be had for his other potential victims, and really for the 4 men who were wrongfully accused. Now, next on my list, I wanted to discuss Angie Ayer's statement. Oh my goodness. I know it was the longest one that, occurred that day. I just felt it was so powerful, and I wanted to go through a few things that she mentioned. 1, how harmful leaks are. She discussed it, and, I always want you to hear it from families first. I mean, I'm a family, but you guys know what I mean. Leaks in true crime cases, when they're treated like gossip, I have the latest tea for you on the yogurt shop murders, can be so harmful. This race to get the information out first without thinking about, how this impacts the families just is something I always want to bring attention to. I've seen it in so many cases, and I wish people would just knock it off. Next, I wanted to talk about her saying that she was with that case longer than investigators and prosecutors. Oh, did that hit me hard. And again, I just wanted to remind you, one of the reasons, a few of the reasons I should say, that I respect these families in true crime so much is because they've been there so long. These cases, they go on for decades. These family members, usually the media spokesperson, right, or the parent or whoever it might be, they usually have more information than any journalist you're going to find, more information than a brand new detective on this case, outside of the case file, of course. I have so much respect for these families, and I think that was just a really great example of why we should have respect for these families, because they usually outlast every other person that comes into these cases. As a family member, you see prosecutors come and go. You see legislators come and go. You see detectives come and go. And you and that victim are the one constant. And I guess, wanted to remind you guys of that. Her statement got me so riled up, in the best way. In the best way. I just think that she summed up the family experience so powerfully. Fighting for your case, moving other cases forward. I think that she just articulated everything very well, how hard it is to go through this process for decades while still expressing her gratitude, which I don't think is easy to do. So shout out to Angie Ayers. My goodness, girl, you are so motivating. Now on to media discrepancies. Everything really came from the same source, so most things were extremely consistent. There were some things with Brasher's background, but I really just took the lead from the investigators. And while we're here, I really do encourage you to watch on YouTube. It's about an hour long, the longer press conference where they talk about all these discoveries where the family spoke. It is so powerful and so informational, and where I got most of the information for this episode outside of my prior research. Now on to our heroes of the episode. I love that we're having so many heroes after these episodes. I love the hero of the episode segment. But here, I'm really taking the lead from the families, and I'm just going to honor law enforcement as they did in their statements at that press conference. So really, to all of the members of law enforcement who gave comfort and justice to these families, you make the hero of this episode. Next, I have the families themselves for just enduring this, staying in the media, being a part of their community, and just going through it. Finally, like I always say, last but not least, I'm going to try not to get emotional, is Amy Ayers. I think I already described it in the episode, but Amy, you are an absolute hero. Not only were your last moments extremely brave to fight back, but now, because of that, you have given some semblance of justice, some semblance of closure. That's for the families to define. You've given that to these people, to the city of Austin, to so many people who have followed this case for so long. While there were many pieces of this puzzle that were put together, like Detective Jackson said, it was really Amy that solved this. So Amy, you are the hero of this episode and a hero in general. And I don't usually do this, but with all of that being said, I think that this whole episode, this whole ordeal, makes our segment of hope. I did have another segment of hope picked out, but I think it's most appropriate to leave it for next week. Because this whole case, Amy, all the girls, everything that happened is one giant segment of hope. When I first posted about this, I cannot tell you the number of comments I got saying, I thought this case would never be solved. And I get it. I get why people feel that way. But to everyone who did feel that way, everyone who posted a comment, I hope that this case, this episode, can serve as your reason to have hope for each and every case. Each and every case. Because in each and every one of those cases, there is someone connected to that victim who likely still has hope. Who needs you to have hope to keep these cases in the media, to keep them getting new resources, new detectives that led to this breakthrough. Hope is so powerful. And like I said, in response to so many of those comments, like I always say, there truly is always hope. But as always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time.